Every good training session needs the right motivation, and that's where Pupford training treats shine. They're tiny, healthy, and packed with flavor, so your pup will stay focused without filling up. Each bag contains over 450 treats, which means more repetitions, faster progress, and a whole lot more fun. And here's the best part. If you order through the link in the description, 100% of the commissions go straight to Dogs Anonymous, a nonprofit supporting pups and people who need it the most. So you get treats that make training easier, your dog gets the skills they need, and together we get to support a wonderful cause. Grab your bag of Pupford training treats today through the link in our show notes. Welcome to Unpacked, an open-minded podcast taking a clinical, not political approach to helping pet parents around the world. I'm Sailor Jerri, certified dog trainer, virtual dog training revolutionary, owner of Tulsa Pack Athletics, and creator of the open-minded approach.
And I'm Mattison, her friend, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant. Together, we have nearly 3 decades of experience in behavioral dog training.
We've been working with real dogs and the humans who love them to create solutions to problematic behaviors that feel too big for them to tackle on their own.
For Season 3 of Unpacked, we're doing something a little different. We're bringing you live unpacking sessions. Get ready to be a fly on the wall of our very first conversation with brand new guests. You'll hear us dig into a new case and offer mindset shifts and immediate strategies. Often the hardest part of moving forward with your dog is knowing what the best next step is to take. And we feel strongly that this episode format will help us get to the heart of things faster and bring you the lessons that will actually change your life with your dog. All of our guests receive free virtual training with our interns, so expect to hear more about these cases as they unfold throughout the year. If you're ready to learn from real behavior cases, settle in with us and unpack. Hey friends, welcome back to another unpacking episode where we're taking big, messy questions about dogs and behavior and breaking them down in real time. Today's episode was actually sparked by a question from our guest, Brittany. I was on Instagram talking about how important it is to, and I quote, get to know your dog as a unique individual. And she responded with a very simple question. Okay, cool. How? And honestly, I didn't have a neat one sentence answer to provide because it's just not always that neat or that simple or that obvious. And so instead of trying to find a perfect answer in that moment, I asked Brittany if she'd be open to figuring it out together. And lucky for us, she said yes. So today we're digging into Brittany's 2 dogs, Dax and King, 2 very different dogs who also happen to be littermates. So let's unpack what it really looks like to meet your dog where they are. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on and doing this, Brittany. I know it's a little bit full of pressure, but I just know that this question, if it's on your heart, it's on somebody else's heart. And I didn't have a good way to answer you. And so I just really appreciate you being willing to dive into the pool of transparency.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So I know that Dax and King have some behaviors that you've been struggling with over the last couple of years. Can you remind me how old they are?
They will be 4 next month.
Okay. And the behaviors are some anxiety, some separation anxiety, but Dax especially is struggling with other people, other dogs, and is very sound sensitive. So I think I'm actually going to pass this one over right away to Jerri, because this is something that she and I started to talk about and started to dig into. And I think this is an area where she and I are going to have some different answers, some different thoughts, some different approaches. And so I'm really excited to see how she would approach this and what would be some of the first things to start considering, Jerri, if you had a brand new client dog and you were trying to get to know that dog, what would that look like for you in the very early stages, day 1 of getting to know a dog?
It's the same for everyone. I treat dog training like I treat recovery. You're not getting past me without step 1, 2, and 3. It's not happening. And we're going to redo it over and over and over because those are the most important things. And in the way that I see that in behavior modification is you have come to me on a losing streak. Why would that be? If you had a skill, if your dog really had a skill set and was really domesticated to society in a way that is functional for your family, you would not be here. So that must mean that there's something major missing. And so I like to start with, can your dog even take food from you? What happens if you throw food on the floor? Before I do that, though, I ask a series of questions for a couple days. I don't like to ask. I'm one of those people that's don't tell me about the birth, just show me the baby. I know how babies are born. I don't need you to explain it to me. We need to get there. We need to get going. You wouldn't think that's the case because I'm such an over talking tangent. But when we're actually working, I want to hit goals. So in the very beginning, I have 2 videos that I give to clients. And the first one asks 3 questions, mostly just introductory questions like, what is your name? Where do you live?
Let's get to
How
know each
old
other
is
as
your
humans.
dog? Yeah, just the basic things that you would think of. But I really try to deter people from telling me war stories.
Because
I,
we've mentioned this in previous episodes. Often, pretty much every time, those first few steps are the same. And when you strip everything else back, when you're starting a race, the first few steps are just putting your feet one in front of the other and getting going. I feel like that can be the hardest part, is to just start.
yeah, it's hard for people because, especially women, because we tend to overanalyze and cycle through. Yeah, Brittany's eyes. It's just a thing that we do. So if we know this fact about us, then we need to address it and not swan dive into it.
Not continue to cycle.
Because that's going to cycle us. And that is part, again, back to the recovery piece. That's step 2. The insanity of believing that what you're doing is actually working and that you're just milling around in figurative and maybe literal shit. We don't know. It could be both. But here's the analogy I'd like to place before people on. And I just said it to someone yesterday who's starting with me today. She asked, okay, we've been talking for about 45 minutes, but are we going to have more time for me to tell you about all of this background? And my response was that this is something that alcoholics and addicts do very well, very well. It's called terminal uniqueness, and it kills people. People die from terminal uniqueness. We're taught in recovery when we go in pretty early on that you are a garden variety drunk. There's absolutely nothing special about your dysfunction. Please do not make your dysfunction unique and special, because it's not. It's actually quite mediocre. That's not what is great about us. What's great about us is what's inside of us, not our dysfunction and all the other bullshit that we're presenting when we can't live life. Once you peel that stuff away and you give beings an opportunity to practice healthier choices that are in reality much better for them, we start falling into that instead of all of this dysfunction. So the analogy I would tell people is, do I need to know every dirty hotel room that you were in to know that you have a problem with drugs?
And to know
please,
how to get out of
tell
that.
me, yeah, please, no, tell me what kind of booze you were drinking, because that's going to matter.
This is the life raft, right? What's the rope? What is this rope made of?
What is this rope? Yeah, my friend Craig, that story is so great. You're drowning in the ocean. Boat comes by and throws you a life raft, and you want to know if the rope's made out of hemp. Oh my God. Okay. We do these things as people. We all do them. It's normal. It's just the awareness that we do it that's important. And so when you have that awareness and somebody helps guide you down a solution path, I think it's much easier for people, and we will struggle much less. And that's why we're here for each other, oh, this thing happened to me. Let me share this with you so that you may not have as much suffering as I, who am dumb and then learned. Like, that's the point. I think a lot of people really struggle with that. So in the beginning, I try to give them a direction, and I also give them a time limit. There's nothing that you need to say to me that's taking more than 5 minutes. There's nothing that I need to say to you that's taking more than 5 minutes. So put your timer on and cut the video off at 5 minutes. And then I ask them about their issues and their goals in the beginning. I ask for a house tour because I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't want to hear what you have to say about it because, oh my God, okay. When you go into recovery and you sit down, one of the first things that you're told is, listen, once you get a sponsor, if you need to talk about something, talk to me. But in the meeting, I would prefer that you listen, because every single time you open your mouth, all you have to offer is the problem. You have not been in the solution long enough yet to offer that as your own personal perspective. So the perspective that you have is problem. And you're coming into
Problem-based.
this room where
Mhm.
people are seeking solution and you're barfing about the problem. And so I just know that about human beings. There'll be plenty of times for us to talk about the problem because I really am here to listen to you. I really do want to hear how you feel. But I don't want it to be a war story where we light up cigars and reminisce over the old times when it was shitty. Like we're
Because
God Lord boys.
it ends up either glorifying something that
Yes,
ought not to be
romanticizing.
glorified, or it just continues to spiral. And when you're only talking about the negative things and the problems, you're going to continue to look for and attract more negative things and problems because our brain
Correct.
can only take in so much. And the reticular activating system is going to decide what information it's taking in. So it's going to be in line with what you're thinking about. So are you thinking
Mhm.
about problems or are you thinking about solutions? If you're thinking about problems, you're going to see problems everywhere. If you're thinking about solutions, guess what? Solutions
There they
everywhere.
are. Yeah, there they are.
Well, you have
Oh,
to
I just got so
practice that,
excited.
right? That's not
Yeah.
something that everyone's automatically born with. And sometimes it's so cliche, but it's like you got to break the cycle, right? You got to change your
It
mindset.
actually is
Everybody's
not
automatically
easy.
born with the negative.
It's
Yeah,
not
we're
easy.
all, yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
best pieces of advice I ever got was to start writing that stuff down and putting sticky notes all around to start reminding you of what you want to be thinking about and keeping in your brain. Because otherwise, we are
Yeah.
just going to think about the negative. So,
I
whatever
yell
it
out
takes.
intrusive thought whenever I have intrusive thought.
I love
And
that.
I'm like, because it's the same thing that we do with dogs. We interrupt the
You got to
behavior.
identify it,
So
identify it, interrupt it.
yeah, with human beings, our thoughts can actually cycle and become a behavior all on its own.
Yeah.
Where we're just stuck in our head, or we're paralyzed with a thought, or we're cycling a thought and we can't focus on anything else. That to me is a behavior within itself.
Jerri, can I ask what you do when you have multi-dog clients and there start to emerge these unique traits and differences between the dogs within the household? Like, where do you see these bubble up? Because I have a couple of thoughts that I want to kind of circle back to towards the end of the call, but I'm being curious here about Jerri's approach because she and I we are
Yeah,
very
we're
different
different.
people.
Yeah.
So we work really differently.
I'm like, ooh, let's just go up to the edge and look down and cannonball in. It'll be fine. We'll figure it out on the way down. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. And it is. It always is. And
You're like
Madison's
falling
like,
and blowing up the life raft at the same time.
yeah. I'm like, okay, you blow this up. We're falling through the air. And I'm like, it's fine. You're fine. You're fine.
Like a cartoon.
She's much more organized than I am. I would say I certainly have a structured program, different strokes for different folks, and that's a beautiful thing. Okay, wait a minute. Let me go back. You asked me how to multi-dog houses and how I approach that. Well, first of all, let's circle back to what I said before. I don't believe anything that you say. When somebody tells me that this dog is this way and this dog is this way, I'm like, sure. And then I pin that and I put it somewhere else. And then I watch and then I watch, because what happens is we get a story in our head, like we've been saying, and we tell ourselves that story about that dog. And then we begin to project that story onto that dog, whether or not it's true or false or whatever. I happen to be a dog nerd and I love dogs so much to the point of it being bizarre and strange. And that's been a lifelong thing. Some people would call that my special interest. But the reason I'm saying that is because people that are like that will learn a really nauseating amount about different dog breeds. And that's great because a lot of people really aren't aware about what the dog that they have. They might know that they have a healer mix or a hound dog or whatever, but they really don't know necessarily from firsthand knowledge a lot about what that breed is really supposed to be doing with their eyes. They know that they herd dogs or that they tree coons, but they don't really know what that means. And so I just like to watch dogs. And then I like to tell owners along the way what that dog is, what that breed is really designed to be like, and how they're supposed to work in tandem with their handler. And then we shape the perspective around who is this dog. So I have a dog right now. His name is Boone. And he's in a multi-dog family he's a hound dog, and he's in a multi-dog family with a black lab mix named Chloe. Boone is I think he's adorable. I love when he gets excited and he like bounces around and runs because he's a fearful dog. He's not what I would consider to be a resilient dog on the surface. But if you take a hound dog out of a pack of hounds, they're designed to work in groups and bark with other dogs at the base of trees. They're designed to be with a bunch of other dogs all the time. And then within that setting, they will work out a social hierarchy. Boone would probably fall to the bottom quarter of the social hierarchy. He's there, he's in it, but he's so if you don't know that about a dog and you look at his behavior, you just think that like he's just afraid of everything. And when he sniffs because he's displacement sniffing because he's stressed out, you just think he's sniffing because he's a hound dog. And you just there's these little things that will just be off. So in the beginning, I try to help people understand first what kind of dog you got there. A healer? Cool. Let me show you some videos of what they really do. Because I don't know if I know you've seen maybe, but they can do a lot of different really cool things, but they're very forward, very this, very that. People wondering why their setter won't walk nicely at heel. That is an upland gun dog. It's made to work 250 yards in front of you. A lot of these things in the beginning are just simple, basic conversations we can have that will help people let go of the belief system that they have around their dog and dogs in general. And let me tell you, to help somebody dismantle their belief system is a tall order. It is the hardest thing that especially behaviorists do.
And these are belief systems that are programmed into our societies now, right? This is not just carried by one individual. So it's even harder to unlearn that. So I want to like take what you said, Jerri, and almost take it a step back. Because to me, and I'm going to, I don't know, echo back to you what you said to make sure I understand your approach. So it sounds like at first there's this like high level understanding of canine body language, right? And like being able to read a dog and understand a dog, and then also knowing what is natural dog behavioral expression, right? Okay, this is natural for a dog to do, but then being able to dial in to a specific dog and learning their dialect and learning their breed specific natural expressions of behavior, breed specific needs, things like that. So getting to know, like knowing dogs is not enough, is what I'm hearing. We need to get
Oh,
really
it's the
curious
same as
about the
why we
genetics.
keep saying that we need more Black doctors, or you may need to see a woman. It's because the perspective has to be drawn from a larger area. Does that making sense the way I said that?
It's about sample size, right?
Yes. I don't mean to diminish that people have maybe not seen thousands of dogs. There was a time where that was the case for me. But the larger the sample size you have for dogs, the more commonalities that you can see. And the quicker that you can see similarities, the quicker you can come up with solutions.
And I think also the quicker you can see similarities, the easier it is to identify the differences
Yes.
and what makes
Well,
this dog unique from this dog.
yes. Okay. So we got to go back to the terminal uniqueness thing. Your dog is not special in its dysfunction, right? It's normal. Then we can narrow it down to who really is your dog. You have this individual that's comprised of either a breed or multiple different kinds of breeds. We have to take heed to that and pay attention. And then within that breed grouping or breed type, there is a unique individual in there that has needs that may be slightly different than the common standard for that dog. Meaning, guess what, folks? There's different kinds of Black people, right? We have a culture. We have a
Mm.
culture. We have similarities. I'm very similar to many Black women, and people often get, I'm not sure the word, feel friction from my tone and the way that I am. And I'm like, do you just not know any other Black women? And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes.
Mm.
Because this is common. This is my passion, the way that I have to move in society. This is not a unique experience. Now, I am a unique individual. There's only one Jerri. We all know that. But there are things about me that aren't weird once you realize, oh, that's who she is. And it's part of this grouping, which is part of being a Black woman, is part of being a woman, is part of being a human being. You know, that there are similarities that bind us, and then there are differences that should be highlighted in a positive way and not worn like a cloak. Oh, God, I'm gonna put this on and I have a reactive dog. That's not and he's so different. And you've never heard this story before. I promise you I've heard that story 15,000 times. I promise you, I've seen that fit. I'll never forget when I freaked out because Milo was tongue tied when he was born. He had to have that little spot under his tongue clipped. Into the doctor, hand on forehead, sliding out of my chair. Oh my God. I was like, this is going to be terrible. I can't even face it.
And your doctor's
I can't
done
even
this
face
100,000 times already.
The doctor was like, done. Walked out of the room.
Yep.
The nurse was like, you can nurse him now. I was like, what? Oh.
Already? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they were like, this is a completely and totally basic procedure that you just started crying over. We'll see you next Tuesday. It's just like that. You just have to. I like to tell people in the beginning how excited I am for them because I know something they don't know. I know where this can go, and they don't know that. They can't see that. That I thought everyone that told me I had to be sober for the rest of my life was dumb. I was like, you're a bunch of liars. You, especially you over there with 10 years, you liar. Your happiness is a lie. Your goals that you've met, liar. I just could not see it. But then as I continued on that, guys, there's a butterfly that landed on my dog. I'm sorry. I've got to stop everything. A pearly crescent.
You should probably
Just
get off the
landed.
call and take a picture.
I got to get off the call and take a picture.
Yeah, you
Anyway,
do that.
I want us to start being really careful about what we're highlighting differences over. Because if we're doing dysfunctional, so
Right.
different, terminal uniqueness. No, but Jerri, you have to see what he does. I've never seen anything like it. Really? I've seen that
But
about
you don't
10,000 times.
understand. You don't understand. That's the phrase that I hear a lot.
You don't understand. You don't understand what it's like. I've never seen that. I'm like, really? Have you ever been in the woods in the dark with nothing but one of those lights on your head and a pack of dogs and a Bowie knife?
Oh, no.
Have you ever seen that?
You had me
And they're
until the
like,
pack of dogs and the Bowie knife.
yeah, they're like,
Right?
what? I'm like, I've seen everything dogs do. Everything dogs do. And lunging at the neighbor is y'all are so cute when you think that. It just reminds me. It's exactly what happens to every single alcoholic that goes into AA. First time I opened up that big blue book, I looked up at everybody in the room. You
And
guys,
this
I
doesn't-
legit seriously thought I was the only one. I mean that. When I say I truly believed that I was the only human being suffering from this thing
That's
in
the
the
flip
way that
side
I
of it,
was.
though.
And then I found out some old white man in 1935's doing the same thing with gin. Damn it.
That's the flip
And
side.
and then what happened? I had to let go of how special and different I was. That is
You
a thing
weren't
that we are
alone.
doing. Yeah, we're doing. It's a thing. And we need to start talking about that terminal uniqueness and what it will do with your relationship with your dog.
And I think if we can talk about it in a way that still does not diminish the impact in their current life.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't say to somebody just entering recovery, what you're dealing with in your life is clearly not that hard. No, that's not the point. That's not the point. I'm not saying it's not hard to have a reactive dog. That's not the point.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think what might be helpful now is I want to go through and just name a couple of categories, Brittany, of things I want you to be thinking about and evaluating for each of your dogs. And I want to just talk through them very quickly and very generally. And then I really want you to have the chance to ask some questions about solution-based, right? About like action steps, about things that you could do today or tomorrow to start making changes, to start taking steps forward. So the first thing at that super high level, right? Getting to know dog body language and natural dog expression, which for some people, they really don't know. And they really do need to learn more about that. And then getting to know your unique breed makeup of your dog and what the needs and natural expressions are of that breed or breed group. Then looking at their own unique dialect within dog body language, because every dog is going to still be a little bit different, even within breed groups and breeds. Then we have things like preferences, which are a part of your dog's personality. This is the part that is unique, right? What are the preferences with food and play and affection and activities? Just all of that. That is unique and probably is different with King and Dax. And you may see overlap. But you may also notice, ooh, King loves when we do this and Dax could not care less. But Dax's whole world lights up when we do this. You have motivation and drive. That is very different. Even within Littermates, you can have very different drive. And then fears. So I think that fears and resilience, this is what I wanted to talk about, these two things together, the fears and the resilience. So fears meaning like individual triggers, right? Those are going to be unique for your dog. And that's something that I think that we focus on.
Of them.
Yes. 1,000%. But again, I think that is us being problem focused versus
Okay.
looking at resilience, looking for opportunities to increase capacity. Where do each of your dogs have the ability to currently show some of that resilience, identifying where they can do that?
Say more about capacity. When you said it, I was like, there it is. There's the word
Yeah, the
because
capacity,
I think there's a difference between resilience and capacity, and I want to make sure everybody knows what that is.
I would consider capacity to be how much one can hold, how much one can hold before it spills over. How
Yes.
much can you process? To what level of stress or stimulation can your dog naturally, intuitively, inherently work through before it just spills over and spills out? And
Okay. Yeah.
resilience is how quickly do they bounce back from the spillover?
Last night took a L, but tonight I bounced back. That's what I always
Hey,
think of.
yep,
This is Big Sean. Bounce
that's
back. That's
resilience.
resiliency. Yeah, that's exactly how I would define it. But how do we develop resiliency and how do we increase capacity?
There are a lot of different ways. So the overarching theme is you got to do hard things. You
Yeah.
have to do hard things. You have to do things that you didn't think you could do, but within safety, within the confines of safety.
Yeah. Wow. I have a lot to say about this. I'm going to be quiet for a second.
Why don't we come back and do a whole nother episode on that? Because I feel like
Yeah,
that will be a whole nother.
that's a whole thing. That's a whole conversation.
I really want Brittany to give you a chance to come at us with some
Yeah.
questions with what time is left, because we info dumped on you a little bit with love.
So at first we asked you, but then we were like, but also, which we do a lot. So if you had to, this is what I ask in the beginning is first of all, how did you get your dogs in let me in a sentence.
How did we get our dogs?
In a sentence, one sentence for each dog. Oh yeah, they're littermates, so
Yeah,
one
we
sentence.
adopted them together from a rescue.
I loved that answer. My
Great.
God, thank you. And you know what happens is because people want to turn that into a soliloquy. Okay, Jerry, let me explain this adopt like they adopted an international child from Russia and they're bringing it to the States or something. That was a very simple way for you to answer me. Okay, great. You got them both from a rescue. Let's move on to the next question. So, what would you say that your issues are if you had to tell me 3 bullet points of the top things that you're thinking of, knowing that we can add more later? What are the 3 things that stick out to you that you're like powerless, unmanageable, going into the side of a mountain? What are those things?
For each of the dogs?
Yes.
Okay, so Dax is our problem child, really. And I would say his like bullets would be he's reactive with people, mostly strangers. He is reactive to other dogs. And then he still poops in the house. Like he still has accidents in the house,
Okay.
even after lots of practice and training.
Remind me how old they are again?
They're going to be 4 in July.
Okay. Okay. And what about the other one?
So King has less issues. He's our
Okay.
golden boy. And then I would say he does have some noise sensitivity. That's a huge thing for Dax too, but because King has less issues, I would say noise reactivity is a problem.
If you don't have 3 for him, you don't need to come up
Yeah,
with 3. If it's just the one.
we just don't have as many hard times with
Okay.
him.
No,
There's
I
only
like that
less.
you said that.
Yeah.
You know how often this happens where somebody tells me about their golden child or they come to me for a particular dog and I'm like, interesting. And as time goes on and we go along, I realize that one's actually the problem. And
The relationship has a huge impact too.
yeah, the way that you perceive your little fur children has a huge impact on the decisions that you make for them. Huge. A lot of times, I have a really good example for you. I have a client named Lorraine who has champion greyhounds. She shows these dogs, they're beautiful. This is like her thing. And she came to me because one of them named Riker was getting in fights with another one named Jordy, and then they have a younger, I wouldn't say puppy, but he's, I think, under a year, Wesley, and maybe about a year old. So I watched, and what was actually going on was that their dog that they perceived to be the one that was better, Jordy, was micromanaging and policing every single thing that the other 2 were doing. And when they would even just be doing something normal like play, he would go over there and have a problem with it. And Riker got sick of it. Riker is a resilient dog with a big capacity. And nuck if you buck. Like that's how Riker feels. And I'm like that as a person. It's not a fault. It's just some people are like that. Some dogs are like that. They have a really strong sense of who they are and they're not going to put up with bullshit. So the perception in their family was that Riker was causing all of these problems, and he wasn't. He was sticking up for himself because he was not being properly advocated for. And so I see that a lot in the Golden Boy families, where the rules are slightly maybe different. And I'm not saying this is you, but if for the people that are listening, this could be them. The rules may be slightly different for one versus the other because of the perception of the way that they are, similar to how we joke about oldest children, middle children, youngest children. The other two will tell you that I baby Milo. The younger two will tell you that the oldest one gets away with murder. And the oldest one and the youngest one will tell you that the middle one gets everything. And I think about my children as the smart one, the athletic one, and the outgoing, performative one. And that unfortunately, and fortunately, I guess both, will influence their life in a profound way. So that story that we tell ourselves about them and the story we tell them with our words, with our body language, with our actions, with our decisions, all of that has a massive influence over their behavior. And I'll say one more thing on that. My parents, when I was young, I'm adopted, both my parents are white, but my parents are very worldly, cultured, fantastic Americans, and they know a lot about Americans in general. And they told me when I was very young that I would have to try extra hard because I was a woman and because I was Black to be taken seriously. That was just the reality. But what that would get me was grit, a good work ethic. It would get me just respect in myself because I knew how to work hard. And that story that they told me, that kind of thing that they projected onto me really influenced my life. Holy moly. So I think that's important to consider. Let's go back and then go back to, we did the 3 bullet points. We talked about the problem child, golden child, what happens with all of that. So then my next question would be generally to clients, what are your goals? And let me give you some metrics. Small, short term and long term. Short term being, if you work with someone or if you are given resource or however that happens, I mean, we know how it happens here at Tulsa Pack, which is great because you get the opportunity to work with one of the interns and actually get some help. But what are the goals? Short-term goals are something that are in the foreseeable future. Long-term goals are obviously something that we may be able to start on the road now, but it's to take small steps to get long-term. What are those for you?
Could I offer how I actually bucket this with my clients? Because I have a very specific. Because I do the exact same exercise, the short term, long term. I'm very specific. Short term, 4-week program. In a 4-week program, what is it that you want to accomplish? Because I want to know if we got a level set, like that's not going to happen in 4 weeks. And then long term, 6 months to a year from now. How do you want your life with your dog to look different? Those are the kind of metrics that I use. Not that one is right or wrong, just the details that I provide.
So I think if I were to bucket the bullets, that's what I'm doing here, right? I think I would say that like people reactivity, like having guests over to the house and actually letting Dax roam the house would be like a long-term goal for us. I don't see that as being something that can be done in the short term. I have one person that I trust coming over to the house and letting him roam. Otherwise, he's gated upstairs or leashed the whole time. As far as like more short-term goals go, sometimes that feels impossible to say that things could happen in 4 or 6 weeks, like working on his noise reactivity, or maybe some of his dog reactivity could be like improved. I wouldn't say there's any chance that it could be resolved in 4 weeks, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. And I guess it also depends on how much you're willing to put in. Sometimes it's input versus output. Like if you don't put in enough, then you're not going to get enough out of it. So I think I try to have level set expectations, like you said, Mattison.
I think you have very level set expectations almost to a fault. I think you're not letting yourself think about what you actually want your life with your dog to look like. Because you're still focusing on problems.
It's been a long 3.5 years.
Yeah. I get it. I've seen people cycle through this and get stuck in this behavior. But again, we're here to talk about goals, right? You're still listing out problems, people reactivity, dog reactivity. So I almost want to ask you to do it again and set aside the problems and think about what do you actually want? Like, what do you actually want?
Yeah, that's a great exercise.
I would love for my dog to not lose his mind when another dog is losing their mind.
Perfect. That's a great goal.
Here, wait, but still, but still.
Oh, I missed something.
I would like for my dog to not do this.
I would like for my
so
dog
let's
to
help.
remain calm when another dog is losing his shit.
Hot damn, she did it. Hot damn, she did it.
There we go.
See how powerful
but like, how does that
is?
feel? Does that feel different?
Yeah.
Then I want to work on my dog's reactivity. Now it's, oh, I actually have somewhere to orient myself because I actually have a goal now.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's such a great exercise for everybody to hear. If you're look at the way you're structuring your sentences of what your goals are, and if they are, I would like my dog to not think about if our parents went around parenting us that way, thinking about that. I'd sure like for my kid to not walk into the store and not know how to read stuff that's there. We don't talk like that. We say, I really want my child to learn how to read so they can be literate and function in society.
It actually explains a lot to me in this moment of like why people are stuck, because they're stuck in their heads
language.
And they really need to orient away from the problem and orient towards solution, because it's more than a
and
language.
If you're struggling,
it's an indication of a mindset.
Yes, it's that negativity we talked about earlier. We will grab for the negative thing 9 times out of 10 over the positive thing. And if you guys are struggling, always feel free to channel your inner Jerri, because I like to say things like the most outrageous goals you've ever heard in your life. Like, I just say them and then I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? And then I just keep saying them. And then eventually they happen. But I had to learn how to retrain my thoughts.
Part of it for me is I'm generally in life a very positive person. And to think that like I'm being that negative naturally is like very out of character for me. And I feel like even in this moment here, like I'm still growing and evolving. And that's, like you said, part of what's keeping me stuck probably in the development of like my relationship with my dog's behavior. But
it is understandable. Like I want to validate.
It's so normal. So many people are going to be resonating with this.
Because if you're
and your face does look
dog,
happy. You don't have the frown lines of a non-happy person. Yeah, you do have a very happy face. I just want to tell the listeners that it's true. Even happy people, even people that generally approach life with a very positive outlook, can get stuck because you're panicking trying to keep your dog from doing the thing that is not the happy thing. It can almost even sometimes be harder for people like you who are generally very positive and experience life in a very positive way. And then they have this anomaly in their life and they're like, my winning attitude isn't helping.
And I think it's also created a bit of maybe a fear too, because if I push him too hard, or if we do too much, or if we go about this the wrong way, I'm going to break my dog. And that's a little bit maybe from a place of doing a ton of research and positive reinforcement and no negativity and stuff like that. That's right up my alley. Like, why can't we fix everything with treats? But like when things need more buildup to get there, I think that's where I've just struggled and not found enough maybe guidance or like patience even to break it down that far. So
again, I just want to highlight the fact that it's not easy to live with a reactive dog, with a creature, an actual living creature, 2 of them in your case, that you have a relationship with, who is experiencing significant and frequent dysregulation, right? Having other creatures in your physical circle who are experiencing dysregulation in their nervous system, unless you yourself have a very strong kind of wall of protection up, that can hijack, right? That can come right in and influence your own nervous system. And so being a human who can regulate, even when there's dysregulation around you, is hard, not easy, but important. It's really important.
That was like so much more powerful than people could possibly imagine. Go and look at the people who you really that do behavior modification. Watch how they are as human beings. What is their resiliency? What is their capacity? Are they masters of managing their own nervous system? Do they understand how to change their own behavior and their own thoughts? Like, those are big tells. That's what I look for in mentors and friends. I look for that literal exact thing that and anything that they do in their life, whether it's with an animal or a hobby that they have, I have a great respect for the way that they're doing it. So there must be something there. And I think that's part of how we learn to have it and why it's so attractive for dog training is so attractive for people is because you have such a great opportunity to practice by helping your dog learn how, and then you can see it happening in them and you're helping them, and it builds a much better relationship. So what do you feel like? We talked about the issues and the goals. This is the part, let me go back. This is the part where I start with the skill set that I was talking about earlier, and I just see what's up. So the next thing I ask for is the house tour because I want to see how people live. It's not because I want to judge you. And if I feel like someone is scared of that, I go in my house and I show them all the massive stains on my carpet or the dirt in the corner that I do not care about that. I am the last person to judge the way you're living or what's underneath your bed. I don't care about that. I do want accurate information though about you. And I have found a lot of really interesting things in the homes of people that I think are tells about why a thing may be happening. For example, if I look in your home and I realize that you're a hoarder, we got a problem. It's not the dog.
It's not dog, and dog training cannot fix it.
It's not the dog, and dog training's not going to fix it. And I am not a licensed therapist, but I am a human being and I do know how to change and I do know how to support someone and be there for them. So if I see something inside the home tour that's like a red flag for me, it's just information that I have, and I hope to use it to help and not to make people feel judged. So we're not going to look inside your house right now, but the next thing I ask for is show me what a mealtime looks like so that I can find out what people feed their dogs without their rationale, because their rationale of why they feed their dogs is their own and they're free to have it. But I want to know if the food that people are feeding is actually going to be helpful and conducive to learning and promoting learning new skills. And we're not just feeding really expensive raw diet out of guilt, because why are we feeding the foods that we're feeding will generally come out when the person's showing me the mealtime. So what do your dogs eat? What do you feed them?
They eat kibble.
Okay. And how do they eat? Is it like okay, they get really excited, they have a specific meal time? What's that like?
So we're pretty routine in the mornings. Usually we get up, go downstairs, they go outside once, and they usually go number one. They come back inside, we feed them. So that's a scoop in a bowl. And then we take them back out where they're supposed to go number two. Usually that happens if we haven't dilly-dallied in the morning. If we've dilly-dallied, then there's a 50-50 chance that Dax has gone to the bathroom in the house. And then typical next steps are we take them for a walk, and they're on like a 15-foot long leash, and we go for a 10 to 15-minute walk just around the neighborhood. So that's like morning mealtime.
That's great.
Dinner's a little bit different because we have the Snoopy or whatever, the balls that like fold inside. Yeah. So we have those. We have like a green
Remy does
ball.
that for his dinner too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they almost always eat dinner out of some sort of ball or puzzle or enrichment toy. Or I'll even wrap a towel and do a cinnamon roll or tie a knot or whatever.
Yeah.
So we do that for dinner.
Perfect.
Okay, good. All those things are great. And it tells me that we have a food we can use, that your dogs seem to like it, and that they're also already used to enrichment and DIY enrichment.
Yep.
So that's great. I learned all of that information by asking one thing: show me what meals are like. And then you told me all that, and you would have shown me had it been, we've been going through training. Okay. The next thing, I don't do eye contact anymore. For anyone listening, I don't know if that's interesting to anyone, but I don't make people cultivate eye contact with their dogs anymore, because we're working on a relationship from the ground up, and looking someone deeply into the eyes generally comes a little bit further along on the journey. And I noticed that about myself. And I noticed that there is a person, and I'm actually very confident and have no problem looking people in the eye, but it is uncomfortable to me when I spend a lot of time. It just takes time to build that. So I don't ask for that anymore. It's something that can come in naturally along the way if it works for the dog. The first thing I ask for is scatter feeding. So I just ask for a couple minutes of a video. Put the phone up, set it up on the TV stand or something, and point it towards the living room. Throw some food on the ground. What does your dog do? A lot of dogs look at it.
Our dogs definitely don't. They are more than happy for a scatter feed anytime.
So that's awesome, because now that gives me information like, okay, these dogs have no problem eating their food. Let's move along. But there might be a dog that I'm looking scared to the listeners. I always forget that this is a podcast.
A visual medium.
Yeah, not a visual medium. And their dog is just not into it, or their dog is used to snubbing their nose and getting a new different kind of food every 3 days, or their dog only likes it when it's this or that. You start to see that's the first tell in, is this dog actually really domesticated to society, or do we have a feral little minion on our hands and they're just managing this little minion, which is happening a lot. So if we can move through that stuff pretty quickly, we start inside, we move to the backyard, and I'm looking and I'm teaching you how to look. How do I know that we can move on? What am I looking for? I'm looking for a dog that's engaged with you and engaged with the environment. I'm looking for a dog that's having a reasonable amount of fun and seems to know what's going on. If those are there, then great, let's move on to the next thing. And Mattison and I always talk about 80 to 90% efficiency before we raise the criteria. Raising the criteria means making it harder. So inside, outside backyard, outside front yard. Okay, now we're going to walk up and down the street a little bit. Okay, now we can go up and down our whole street. Now around the block, now to this neighborhood park. Now we can go to a new park because we went to this park. There's a progression and a step process to it, and people get lost in it.
Your little baby sleep twitching back there.
How? He's got another little butterfly on him a second ago. I thought, it's precious. There's like bees and butterflies everywhere. Yeah, this is all of everything that people are seeing with me do with Enzo is the same basic skill set that I teach. I think sometimes people think I have like secrets or something. I'm like, no, I just throw food on the ground and at his mouth. I have a leash and I have toys. There's no secret. There's no fancy. It's not because I don't think that there's more things that you can do with the dog. I think the average person doesn't give a shit. We want to take our dogs on walks. We want to maybe get a little Starbies with them or something. Take them to the park. Take them to the river. We want to have a regular, normal life with them. We're not trying to do sport work. We're not trying to do any of the fancy stuff. So if we keep the skill set really simple, and you can build on that skill set much like you would basketball. He's growling.
You sleep growling?
He's going much like you would in basketball. Yeah, he's dreaming.
Oh.
He's getting the cat bugglers in his dreams. I don't know what he's doing. But in sports, you have basic skill sets. And in basketball, you pass, you dribble, you shoot, you run. That's it. Maybe you use your voice to say something, but that's it. So we can see that with that basic skill set, we've got people all the way down here at little bitty ball, and we've got professional NBA players, and they're all doing the same skill set at varying different levels, depending upon how much they can practice, what their background is, what their resources are, how cool their mom is. We know that's a big play. That's a big factor right there. Yeah. So then after we go through that, this is where I wanted to stop and be specific to you. It's fine and well to scatter and learn these things and do these things. But what's going on with dogs like yours, and I be specific to the sound sensitivity issue. I have noticed, and Mattison, tell me if you have seen something else, but I have started doing something that I used to only do once dogs got to a certain point and they weren't getting better. Now I do it proactively and preventatively, and the dogs don't have the problem that they did before. I call it snuffle mat stations, and it is for desensitization, sound sensitivity, all of those kinds of things. But I've noticed that dogs that really struggle with literally everything, they need to spend a lot of time in their yard decompressing. They need to spend a lot of time in their yard working on desensitization. And if you do that in conjunction with some of the other things that we're doing, the scatter feeding, the ready catches, the backpedaling, and doing the stuff, if you do that as this kind of background maintenance thing, those dogs actually seem to progress at the rate that other dogs do. Where before, I think that their progression is much slower without a very pointed desensitization plan. Mattison, please tell everyone what desensitization is and in a language that they can understand it.
Desensitization is decreasing the impact of a specific trigger to your dog, which is often one, but also often many different senses. So I'm talking sight, sound, smell. Those are really important to be looking at those stimulus as different, because the way that information is entering your dog's body is very different. So sometimes we have to desensitize to sound. Sometimes we have to desensitize to visuals. Sometimes we have to desensitize to smells. So being aware that it's possible that if your dog is being impacted by all of those at the same time, there are opportunities to strip them away.
Yeah, you could think about people that have dogs like that. You can think about just them being turned inside out and everything being on the outside, or like this layer that, oh gosh, Brett said it the other day. I put it in my stories when I was teaching about the frogs. And Brett was like this. He was holding his hands cupped around the frog and he said, don't touch them because they're sensitive and they
They
will
absorb
absorb everything. That's exactly what those dogs are like. And they need help. They need help because everything is just like raw and it just permeates them. There's a really good book by Kevin Behan called Your Dog is Your Mirror. And he says that he believes there's two different kinds of dogs in the world: the dogs that are rugged, hardy, confident, that are going out into the world looking for things that stimulate and excite them. Then there are the sensitive dogs, and the world is happening to them. But those dogs generally are more intuitive, emotionally.
This sounds like sensory seeking and sensory avoiding.
Yeah, yeah. It just depends on which person you ask. But multiple different people have come up with this independently on their own and call it something. So
Yeah,
we'd have
yeah,
to
there's
we'd have
something
to
here.
consider that there's something to that. Yeah. And I think there are also dogs that fall somewhere in the middle of the spectrum because they may have been sensitive and now they're building into a confident, rugged, hardy dog, or they may have been a confident dog and now they're sensitive because some things have happened to them. So I think it's a spectrum, and we'd like to be pushing to get or maybe a ladder is a better way. We're trying to climb the ladder to get to confident, rugged, hardy.
Yeah, a few steps in that direction would be great.
Yeah, you're like, I just want to get up a couple rungs.
Yeah, we don't need to be at the top.
One thing that's a part of this project and of the podcast is we will be pairing you with an intern, provided that you're interested in doing some training. So you can complete a 4-week virtual program with someone, start to really take these first steps, start to apply these things that we talked about to get to know Dax and King as individuals, maybe even identifying the areas and the ways in which maybe the story was impacting your attempts to progress and move forward, and where maybe that needs to be stripped away. And maybe where in some ways we do need to look at our dogs as unique individuals. And maybe other times we need to switch our lens and not do that and look at them as the same. So that way we can treat them with fairness and almost have an active exercise that forces us out of storytelling mode.
I have so many thoughts because of this. I just have thoughts about parenting now. I have thoughts about I'm going to be doing some real soul searching.
Right. I'm thinking a lot about human behavior right in this
I've
exact
been sitting
moment.
here thinking about my kids and what have I done? Am I doing something so I'm with you. You're not alone, Brittany.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on to do this. And like I said, I just know that there are people out there who are having these questions. And sometimes as trainers, we say things as if they are so obvious, and they are not. And we need people to come to us and say, okay, what the heck does that mean? Because that actually doesn't mean anything to me. And so I hope that we were able to create some definition. I feel no closer to a simple one sentence explanation of this question, but I feel like we got really deep here. And I think Jerri and I are probably going to have a lot of follow-up conversations after this.
Yeah. I'm excited for you to get into training because that's where you're going to get the pointed help. And for everybody that's listening, Mattison and I are never trying to sidestep what we think an answer is to something. We're trying to teach you guys that nuance is important and context is important. And you cannot gather context about someone if you don't spend time with them. As behaviorists, we have to spend time with people working with them. And then we can start to give people some answers that are specific to them. But start on those snuffle stations. If you have a backyard with a fence, you don't need to buy snuffle mats. You can do the cinnamon rolls out there. Keep doing that if you are.
Okay.
I mean, I want you to really put a heavy emphasis on my dog needs to be out experiencing the environment without it being an assault on their senses. And the best way that I can do that is desensitization.
A crazy little thing that's maybe like a side story, but so we moved into a different house like 3 months ago or so. And in the old house, houses were about as close as they are together. We just have less road noise here, but we have been sleeping with the windows open a lot more. And they used to just like get up and whine and bark all night long when the windows were open. So we would shut the windows. And whether it's because we don't have as much road noise or they're just getting more used to like all of the outside noises or whatnot. Like we've been sleeping with the windows open like every night. So it's like maybe a little bit of that desensitization.
It is.
It is. They are hearing all of those
Yeah.
bullfrogs and the owls and the woodpeckers and just
It's called habituation.
So you have two kind of
habituation.
options for this desensitization at breakfast time. You could either open a window while they're eating, provided that's not going to like massively dysregulate them, or you can do breakfast outside. Just take breakfast out to the backyard.
So do you see the difference for people listening? What Brittany was describing is called habituation. We talk about that a lot. You're letting life happen, but it's not so overwhelming that your dog is shutting down, but you're not really intervening. It's just occurring. Desensitization is when we step into that process with food or play. We're trying to actively increase the tolerance of your dog to those things. So they're two different things. One of them involves human intervention with something that's helpful to the dog. And then the other is when life is occurring and we watch it pass by. Yeah, the natural consequence of life.
Well, and it's funny too, because now that I think about it, like how dumb is this? Why, instead of taking 2 bathroom breaks outside, if we take breakfast outside, we're not going outside twice. Like
we're just outside.
And you're being productive. Yeah, productive. And you're also creating a completely different association with what you do outside.
Yep.
Everybody is just bamboozled by how chill this dog is outside. I'm like, I sit out here with him hours and hours out of my life for years. So he's learned that the outside is for a lot of things.
Yep.
It's for a lot of things. And mom's going to let me know what the context is for what we're doing. There are tells and what she does. If she walks outside and starts sitting her stuff down on this little thing, chill. We're going to chill. If she walks outside and goes to the Jeep and gets my leash in the bag and she starts walking to the road, my God, we're going on a walk. I can get excited. Sometimes I'm sitting here on the porch and she drives off. What? And here he's just sitting here when I get back. We're certainly not doing anything if she's not here. Sometimes I get my bike out. Sometimes they can learn, but we have to give them opportunities to practice each one of those things. And then we have to make sure they're balanced. A lot of people you get your leash out only when it's turned down for what time. And then we wonder why our dogs are so excited. So they can learn, but we need to practice all of the things: habituation, desensitization, working on skills. And when we do all that stuff in these areas, they will fall into it much easier. I'm excited for you. I can't wait to see all the progress that you make.
Thank you. Me too.
So we'll be in touch within the next couple of weeks to let you know what intern you're paired with, and we will get that all set up. And then we'll probably ask you to come back in maybe 2 months or so to talk about where things are at and see if we can help move things forward.
Awesome. Thank you both so much.
Of course.
Yeah, thank you for spending so much time with us today.
Yeah, of course.
I know. You were really willing to dive deep with us.
You were a visitor to our TED Talk for a lot of it. So you were a wonderful and gracious observer. Thank you, and participator.
Unpacked was created by Jerri Sheriff and Mattison Simpson.
If you are enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister podcast, Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next time.